lean on me, yeah. When you're not strong, and I'll be your friend.
Here we go, Eduardo Live, and we're on air with my dear friend Enrique Acosta Gonzalez, like the guru of leadership on LinkedIn. A friend, what can I say? My sensei of leadership, who I always talk to when I feel lost with leadership. I go to Enrique Acosta. Enrique, tell us, how did it start? How come that you are so passionate about leadership? Tell us the story. Tell us from the beginning to where you are today.
All right. Well, thank you for having me on the show, Eduardo. I really appreciate it. I know we've talked about collaborating for a little bit, and I'm so happy that it's coming to fruition. I'm Enrique Acosta Gonzalez, everybody. And, frankly, and just to be blunt, it started because I fell under poor leadership early on in my career in the Navy. And that scarred hard. There was a lot of, putting down, a lot of just, poor management, poor leadership. And that propelled me on the journey that I'm in now. I spent 26 years in the military. I was fortunate and blessed enough to get to the highest rank that I could. And in all those years, I developed myself along with great mentors, because although it was poor leadership in the beginning, I won't say that there were no people around me that had good leadership, but they were external, right? So they almost came to my rescue, if you will. But thankfully for them, and a lot of good mentors and a lot of great books, including the Webster's Dictionary, which I miss. It allowed me to get on this journey to ensure that no one else, at least in my world, in my little sphere of influence, would ever come in contact with poor leadership. I knew how much it really hurt me early on, and I never wanted to see another sailor fall under that ever again. So I did my 26 years, and I decided that leadership was my life, and it really is. It's my passion. I love it. I could do it, my eyes closed, and I could do it forever. So I created Triad Leadership Solutions, which focuses primarily on college graduates that are going into their first year of leadership, or established leaders that are just struggling. They just can't get effective. They can't get efficient. And they don't want to tell anybody at the office, right? Although everybody knows. Let me just tell everybody out there that's struggling as a leader, people know. So I work with them, and I get them where they need to be. It's funny. There's this slogan, right? And you've seen it, right? I take you from success with the K, and make it success. So I have a play on words on that, but there's little things that pop up in people's leadership styles and their tenures that really are like a wrench in the mix, and they just can't get past it. And so I help folks to get past those areas and make them the best leader they can be.
That's amazing, my friend. And I have a question for you that I'm always curious about, is that would military leadership work in the big corporate? And what is actually military leadership? Because for me, as I have spoken with you about like the military leadership, right? I think many people have this kind of misconception. They watch like these movies, right? Like the sergeant, like Eduardo is there, like screaming at people, like right? And it can't be like that. Like else, why would people be there? For me, please explain to us this military leadership. What is it, and would it work in corporate world?
Yeah, well, the military is a dynamic arena, right? You can go from filing papers to receiving orders to going to the front line, knocking down doors, and taking out the enemy, right? it doesn't go like that all the way, but it can, right? You can go from an office environment, get orders to go on a ship, in terms of the Navy. Then all of a sudden the call goes, you go to theater, and then you're on boots on ground. So that span of, dynamic environment is pretty big, right? So in the civilian world, you don't have to do that. You don't have to, right? So it's two different worlds, but the leadership aspect remains the same. A good leader is a good leader, and a bad one is a bad one. It doesn't matter if it's in the military or if it's in corporate. And you both either flourish or you hurt and pain on the both. So the misconception is that everybody in the military is Sergeant Slaughter, right? Running around, barking orders. You got to do push-ups. Things are, by the book, and that's just the way it is, or get out. There are elements in a career that may call for that. I'll tell you that, right? Because I am one that considers myself probably the most heart-centered person that you may come across. Now, they may be better than me, but I'm the only one I know, right? So I am heart-centered. That means that everything I do is well thought in regards to the person that this decision is going to affect. And so, but there are times where I've had to have a difficult but needed conversation. Those are not times for laughter, right? We're not smiling, we're not joking. Very serious, very to the point. But I always address those with a construction plan, right? I'm going to break you down because it's going to happen. I'm going to break you down, but I'm going to bring you back up gently and with a lot of intention and deliberately, and we're going to get you where you need to be. So, there are times that some situations call for tough conversations. Tough conversations do not mean that you're running around screaming. I will not let somebody scream at me. That's not going to happen, right? We will either reconvene this conversation or something's going to go astray, right? And so there are things that you just don't do because you're dealing with people. You don't treat people any less than you want to be treated. And if you're a true leader, you'll always abide by that. So the misconception of running around yelling and screaming all the time, that's not what we do in the military. There are times when that has to happen, especially, when you're in theater. It's life or death. There's no nice conversation. We're getting stuff done. We got to go. But for the most part, it is deliberate and intentional leadership. That means that we try our very best to not only run leadership because we have a rank or we have a position, but because people want to do it for us. And you can't get that unless you are a positive and influential leader. And the same goes out for the civilian populace. I've been in rooms where I've seen executives running around yelling and screaming and barking orders like if they were in the military. And I will look around and I'll see everybody looking to a person for approval or disapproval. And I say, that's the leader, not these guys or these guys running around. It's the person that the people look to for guidance.
I'm a big believer, or like, I love the work of Jim Collins, like Good to Great. That was like my first book as an entrepreneur, that for me was like almost like, like finding the Bible, and for me was like, it was so amazing because everything that I thought about leadership as I see it, it was there, with facts proven, Because Jim Collins, he said something really interesting. He said, you need to put the wrong people out of the bus and the right people inside the bus and the right people on the right seat of the bus. And not only the digital world, I would say that's for all companies, that they have this misconception of like leadership is there forever. Even if you're not appropriate, like now I'm not the best CTO because we're growing from like, let's say from 30 to 300 people. Eduardo, I'm not that type of CTO. I know that because I'm the starter. I can start anything from zero with just heart and brain. I'm that guy. I can build anything I want with these two things only. And I love that phase, But when I go to 30 beyond, it's only administration. And that is not Eduardo. I don't like that. So then you need another type of leader. So that is what Jim Collins is trying to say, that you need to have a leadership that is built upon the best person at the best position of circumstances and how I say where you are. Your reflection on that?
Yeah, I know that too well. I used to work for an ad tech company with engineers, right? And you learn to love engineers for what they bring to the table. One of your scenario played out the same. There was a leader, that they had their capability, and the problem is that we try to force people who are technically capable to be people capable. And when you try to force something, it's just going to break. And so the funny thing is that no one is willing to take a step back and pay to go to the right seat. So
yeah,
it's kind of it's kind of one of those situations that, hey, look, I understand you can't do this job, but I'm going to have to put you in the right seat. That seat just pays $7 an hour, right? And so nobody wants that.
Yeah.
So how much of a leader are you if you're not willing to go to the right seat for the right reasons? And so
yeah,
so the challenge is getting a group and figure out who belongs where, and no matter what the expectations of the people, if they are truthful with themselves and with the team, they'll get in the right seat no matter what happens, right? Because they that in the right seat, you'll be doing the right job, and then everything flows right. But there's always going to be that challenge. Once you pay somebody $15 for being in the wrong seat, how you going to pay them less for being in the right seat?
That's a tricky one. But I can tell you where I have been in a situation, not only once, where I feel like we need military leadership in this company. And I can tell you when it's called something called company politics. The worst thing I know the two worst things I know in the corporate world that I really don't like is company politics and micromanagement. That are for me, that I'm allergic to that. And I really love when you told me the thing that with the military, when they go to another place, they know what to do and they will feel at home because they know that it's their brother and sisters, right? And I'm actually using that in the book now because I'm doing this analogy to company culture. And for me, that's brotherhood, sisterhood,
Mm-hmm.
That is for me company culture. Like when you do it correctly, you feel loyalty immediately. And for me, that's when I work, it doesn't matter with company. Like if I don't have heart, I go, like I don't have problems finding positions I have quite a knowledge and experience, So for me, it's like if I'm going to waste my time someplace, I need to feel good and they need to use the best out of me, all the competence. But most important is that they need to have heart. They need to have company culture. Like people must believe and they must be like, they must feel for each other, they must care about, I don't want him to lose his job. That is the feeling that I want in a company. And when you said that to me, I realized that that was the thing with company politics. Like it can't exist if you have a leader that implement care for the like flag that represents, in this case, the company, right? This is what we're doing. Like, don't remember that. Nobody forget it here. Like, you're not here because of your career primary. That is secondary. And with company politics, for me, it's people that are there for their career primary, and secondly for the company. That is usually the case when I see that. Why are they doing politics?
Well, politics comes in at every level. It does. I mean, it's just who allows it to run the majority of the environment, right? There's going to be some politics that will have to be played out, right? Somebody designated a parking space for the CEO. I'm running late. It's empty. Why can't I park in the parking space? Right? It just seems logical to me that if the parking space is open, that I should be able to park and go in.
I
and
love
be
that
on
one.
time.
I love that one.
Right? So, but guess what? Somehow somebody designated that parking space for the CEO. Where is it? At the back of the parking lot or at the front by the door? Right? It's by the door. Right? These are things that, because people feel that they are more than somebody else, that they designate these things, right? Well,
Yeah, I never.
Hey, if the CEO is getting paid $500,000 and I'm getting paid $12 an hour, he should have enough money for 10,000 umbrellas while it's raining and walk himself on the back of the parking lot. But that's not how it is.
So you're telling me that leader that you're talking about, he's probably going to take the helicopter when the ship goes down, not leave the ship lost, right?
I don't know what they will choose. All I know is that there is going to be an element of politics, of hierarchy in any organization. It just cannot run the company. It cannot be the primary thing, right? Because guess what? Like, let's talk about that parking spot just a little more. If I'm the CEO and I say, man, you know what, Eduardo, he has been hitting it out of the park this month. And I've heard it in the briefings. I've heard it at the meetings. You know what I'm going to do? Hey, Eduardo, come here. I've heard and I've noticed. Now, I'm the CEO. I've heard and I've noticed the work that you're doing. This next month, I want you to park in my spot. What would that do? Maybe that doesn't move Eduardo, right? Maybe that doesn't move Eduardo. Maybe give me some time off, right? But that's up to the leader. The leader should know what moves Eduardo. But let's just say the parking space actually moves Eduardo. What did I just do? I just recognized the person from the highest level. I just validated their existence at my company. And not only that, I just showed everybody that the people that work at this company, like Eduardo, they're going to get noticed. They're going to get recognized. And they're going to be put in places that they would normally not be. Now, it's just a parking space. But I tell you that Eduardo is going to be talking about that parking space to his family.
I love that one. That's what I'm talking about, because, if I would enter a company as a CEO and they say, "Oh, Eduardo, by the way, here's your parking lot in front of the entrance," I would make that into a handicap. I would how you say, parking place. I'm promising, like, from my heart, I'm saying this because that is how I am. That is
Yeah.
how I am as a person. That's it, and I would do that without even asking. I wouldn't go to the I wouldn't gather the management board and say, hey, you know what, I have this idea. I would just do it, like, hey, do this. That's it, just to set an example that I'm here for the company, and I'm here because I care. I'm not here because of bonus checks or like whatever. And this is research. This is a fact. You can't motivate people with money. You can only do it to a certain level. After that level, they start to think more of themselves than they start to think of the common. And this is what I criticize most with the whole industry. Like, I had this discussion with a friend of mine. There were this article about this, they always come up every year, like they got this big bonus of 100 million, and like people that were working were complaining, and the leadership said, oh, you're so ungrateful that you complain. And I was like, my friend, I told him, like, those person doing that leadership on that level, they have not much more intelligence that I have. This is how it is, or you actually, Enrique, or anybody that I know that are on leader level. I don't care, like it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They don't have it. They have more experience on that floor. It means they have like operational experience, but not as leaders, So he said to me, he said, like, Eduardo, you're just jealous because you're not getting that check. He said. And I told him, like, you're not getting the point, you're not getting the point. They should not complain that the workers complain that they didn't give like Christmas bonus, and they up in the roof, they got this 100 million check. They should just accept that people complain, because for them it would be like a wake-up clock or something, as I see it. So for me, I like, as I see it, leadership is changing a lot, and they need to change, And I think they will learn more from the military than the military will learn from the corporate world. That is what I believe. What do you say about that?
Well, I mean, there are elements of a military person that will, without a doubt, make an environment good. But hey, look, I'm gonna tell you, not every military person is raised the same. Not every military person comes with the greatest of intent. I mean, we're people. We're people, right? So just because we were in the military and we know how to show up on time, and we know how to be dressed right, and we know how to follow orders, and we know how to think without micromanaging, and you could tell us what you want, go take that hill, and you can guarantee that we're going to take that hill, right? So if you want something done in your company, you tell a group of military people what you want, and it's going to be done. Now, not everybody that's served is like that. Okay, so you still have to vet the person. You still got to see, because some people, they leave the military and they were not too happy, right? So if they left the military not too happy, now you're going to bring them into your company, and then what do you think they're going to be in a couple of months? they might not be too happy with yours, right? So and or they may be, this was gold, I love it here, this is where I belong, right? Because there's something different for everybody. But what I can tell you about military personnel is that we are raised to complete the task no matter what. We are raised to do a mission. We will look after each other. We will make sure that no one gets hurt without need. There are things that we will do. And you ask us to jump into a situation, people are shooting. Who does that? Right? Only the military people. But that takes a very getting rid of yourself for somebody else. And so when you have a getting rid of yourself for the sake of somebody else, it it means that no one's gonna go down here unless we all going down, and we're gonna do this thing, and we're gonna support each other, and we're gonna help each other, and we're gonna make sure that we all excel. We're gonna go in it, and we all gonna come out. And so that type of relationship is what's missing in corporate. In corporate, it's you got your job, I got mine. Don't tell me how to do it. Right? And why you asking me questions? Why you want my job? And there's some of that.
Yeah, but
But
that
guess
is
what?
what.
So there's a difference there, but the military people can and will do what you ask them to do. You just can't ride them, right? They're raised to think on their feet and think on their own once the task has been given. So it's one of those things that you don't have to. And it depends on the person, right? So vet your people.
I just realized that I actually preach more military leadership than corporate leadership, because when I coach mentors, startups, or entrepreneurs, or like whatever, is like, I just have to mention this first. The word thing I know in any company that I enter is that they say this, like, what is your role? The first thing they do when they meet me, like, when Jim Collins said that, he didn't say that, oh, that's true, maybe we should do that, and then you do that, and then you keep driving. He said you need to do that every time you shift to a new route. It means in every new in any new kind of level growth of the company, or if you shift to another field, maybe you need to question, are the right leaders leading the company? And I believe that true leaders, they understand this and they do it, because I have seen that. And one of the leaders I respect the most that I have known, like personally, he did that. He shifted everybody if he needed to, because he understood it's not about them, it's about the company. The company stands above, like the company is not there to serve the management to get bonuses. It's the opposite. Everybody's there to serve the company. That is how I view it.
Well, let me add to that, just so that my perspective. Yes, it is about the company, but a leader that shifts people around without a plan to bring them up to the position where they should be, then it's failing the person, right? So I will gladly tell you, hey, so and so, I need to talk to you, because I need you to sit with me on an assessment, and we're going to assess your whole thing together. But I'm going to create a plan for you to get you where you think you should be and where I think you should be. So simply by shifting people in the right seat, because you can have a whole entire disgruntled bus, right? People all pissed off about who's driving the bus, right? Let alone sitting in the bus, who's driving the bus. And so since we're dealing with people, and we're dealing with people with heart, you have to have a plan. I said in the beginning, right? I'll definitely break you down, but I'll do it knowing that I have a plan to bring you back up to the position where you think and I think you should be.
Yeah, this leader did that, actually.
Yeah.
This leader did that, and that was why I respected him so much, And
right.
this is the reason that for me, Enrique Acosta Gonzalez is my primary leadership know-how source on LinkedIn today, because you just heard it, how he broke it down so good, That was amazing, Enrique. That was a good one. That was a good one. So I just realized that what I'm teaching is actually more. I'm not teaching big corporate like organization, because that's not my thing, right? So what I'm teaching is actually more military leadership, because I'm talking about the vision. That's super important, the vision. And then I'm telling, like, the values, that's your Bible. You need to put it on the wall. Like, that's, for me, I'm a very value-driven person. And that was my experience from like building company. You know, it's like you need to have that loyalty, you need to have that heart for each other, because else you're not going nowhere. And when you grow to a certain level, that was what happened to me. Like when we reached 20, I noticed the thing with roles and politics came in, you know. So for me it's like but now I work in big corporate, and I'm working in a company where I haven't noticed this kind of thing so much, or maybe, but not like, it's a really good place to be. We're like 1,000, and it's a lot of value driven, a lot of focus on company culture. And so I think even a big corporate can be more this kind of unity thing that I preach for the startups.
Well, it starts at the top, right? So if you have somebody at the top that believes all that, the company ends up being like that. But let's say the next CEO rolls in and they don't believe it. There's going to be some friction. There's going to be some changes. There's going to be some shattered dreams, right? Because you're living in a nice one right now. But you know, it leadership always starts at the top. If you cannot have somebody at the very top that exemplifies everything that you look for, then you're gonna have to be surrounded by people who at least form collectively everything that people look for, right? And so maybe you're not the right person to talk to when things are going downhill. Maybe the other guy or this other girl is the person you want to talk to, and then they can talk to that person and kind of know how to communicate. Hey, this is going on, but don't worry, we got it. You know, and so either you have it all or you have a team that has it all. But leadership must exemplify every attribute that is near and dear to a good leader's heart. So yeah, hopefully every company can get to that place where, you know, they look like the one that you work for right now.
Yeah, like I think many maybe are, you know, because I have noticed that we're like where I write in the book is that I write this kind of the work history, you know, like 100 years ago, like maybe I were working in the factory floor, you know, and then the overseer or the boss came by and like slapped me in the head, you know, like work faster, and that was accepted. You know? So 50 years later, I was working in the office. Maybe I was a woman, and then the CEO came and pinched me in the back, and that was okay. It was accepted. So what I think what is happening is that we're slowly but surely being like more and more humanizing the workplace. And that is my big thing that I'm like having so big passion for today, is the thing about humanizing leadership. Like leaders are no supermen, they are just anybody, you know. And why I say that is very simple, because leaders have the highest percentage of anxiety, burnouts, and all these kind of things, and they don't talk because of stigma. And then I ask, like, what is this stigma thing? Yeah, but you know, Eduardo, like I can't say I'm the leader of this company. I can't say that I'm having anxiety. And I'm like, but you're a human. Like, if you could say it openly in a meeting. Everybody, if one person would say, "Oh, you're crazy in the head, we need to remove you," you don't want to work with that person. Most people would emphasize with you when you show, like, how you say, you show that you're just a human, you know.
Yeah, vulnerability.
That's what I have noticed in any industry. Like I'm talking about, I think even in the military, right? Let's say that you have a leader and he's struggling, like he's separated. Now he's struggling with depression. Would everybody leave him?
No, we'll try to corral him, right? We'll try to surround him. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And this is what surprises me. Why are they so afraid of showing that they are humans? I'm struggling with this thing.
Yeah,
with like,
well, you know, you mentioned stigma, and that's one of the things that I mean, how many years have I not heard stigma over whatever, you know, subject? Whatever the flavor of the stigma may be during that time, we always mention it. The reason why people don't do it is because they believe that it will convey a sign of weakness, right? And so in business, you're concerned about competition, right? And so the first newsreel on the newspaper that catches wind that Enrique Acosta Gonzalez, CEO of such and such company, tells the board and company that he's having a hard time. What's going to happen? Woo, hard time. Oh, well, start calling their clients. Do they really want to be with a company that the head is having a hard time? These are the things, right? These are the things that cause folks in leadership not to seek the appropriate help. Now, I tell you, I've never seen people surround me and support me like the times where I was vulnerable enough to say, I'm dealing with this. I need your help. So and it's only when you do it that you realize that that's not a weakness. It actually helped out, because the people who could came up and raised my hands and were able to help me through the whole situation. And there's going to be some leaders that are still struggling, and they'll continue to struggle because they can't find a way to be vulnerable. Now, so there are some fears out there, and for good reason. But you should seek the help you need for the right reasons. Yeah,
I would like to ask you some question about the opposite of good leadership: toxic, dysfunctional, abusive leadership. And
right.
Me Too, like the Me Too movement, right? And that is like happened only some few years ago when it became big, right? I know that it went back like more in time, but then it, like, oh, like they are abusing us, like these big leaders of Hollywood. So how can the herd adapt to or dysfunctional toxic leadership to stay in that tribe, because of one single leader misbehaving on the top? That is what I don't get.
Well, I mean, this is nothing new. I mean, all of life has had some flavor of all the things that we're looking at. Slowly but surely, we've created laws that help mitigate some of that, and yet and still, some manage to continue those practices. Right? Those things only happen in environments of fear. If you have created an environment where fear rules, then those things get to flourish. The moment somebody basically thinks of themselves in the right way and says, hold up, you're not going to do that with me. That's when the tides can change. But as long as people are turning a blind eye and not speaking up, they will continue. But it's not new. What's new is people actually saying, you know what, enough is enough. Well, I mean, it's all fear based. Everybody has a fear of something that allows them to say that it's not worth this for that, right? And so what is that fear element? And that's really the question for all situations that happen in an environment that's a work environment or not work environment, but collaborative environments where there are more than one person in there and something happens. So what happened to create an environment that is fear-based? What was that? And typically, there's several reasons, but one of the most frequent reasons is because either I did it and I don't want to be exposed, or if I say something, I'm going to lose my livelihood, the only thing I have. During this time, with Corona, all of those incidents went up. You know, there was
That's
more
crazy.
there was more stuff happening, but guess where it was happening? It was happening at the house because those people ain't at work. They're not at work anymore,
So
and
the
because
psychopaths went home and then took
they
it
went
on their
home now,
children and their, oh my, that's
and
horrible to hear,
so,
man.
well, the thing is, it's where what are we afraid of, and why are we afraid, and when are we going to say, the fear is not worth continuing to be under this type of situation.
I
So,
understand that. I understand that part, because I understand that, like, people who are like, oh, this guy is the producer of all this movie and I will get a role. I understand that. But what I don't understand is the people around that are sane on the same level. People that are like you and me, like humanists, and not only that, people of action that don't accept like misbehavior. We go to action.
yeah.
How could they accept that person? That is what I don't get. That like the people at the same top level that knew, like, how come that they didn't do anything? Like grab him by the ear, or like like confront him. Like, what are you doing?
And going back to the leadership piece, right? You show yourself a leader when you can actually stand up for the person that you're supposed to protect, right? When you can stand up for the person you're supposed to protect, you show your true leadership. And so when people lay down to a situation, they're not being leaders. And so, when you talk about intellectuals, there's academics, and you said that, and then there's what we call street smart. All right, yeah.
For me,
You don't have to tell
academical
me.
points have nothing to do with true intelligence. I can tell you that.
When you have a person that is perceived to be intelligent and they don't do intelligent type stuff, are they intelligent or are they academic? Because
Yeah.
it's two different things. So to continue down the road of leadership, these are the times where true leaders rise. These are the times where true leaders stand up, and it may not come from the level of the leadership. It may come from below.
Yeah, and
And
in this
that's
case, it came from below, and this is like, so for according to me, they all failed at leadership. All the people around that knew and did nothing, all of them failed at leadership. That is the fact.
that
It
could be
was the
argued.
person at
Yeah.
the bottom. They need to swallow that, because this is a fact. That is what they did, because I would never have allowed that. So, and this is what I'm talking about. You need to take a stand. There's nothing to lose in any job. It's very rare that you will get fired if you say no. That is more like movies. In most cases, when you confront this type of people that are misbehaving, stepping on the values, they take a step back. And this is what I notice in the industry, that they have this kind of, Eduardo, he's so skilled, let him be an asshole. And I'm like, no, I will not do that, because I will not tolerate that. We can't have people misbehaving to others if we want to have a good culture. That is not accepted. I don't care if the CEO does it. I will go and talk with him, because we have values. Like, I came to this place and I agreed on these values. Everybody did, So even if you're King Kong, you need to do the value. So that's what I say, that military leadership for me, in a sense that you described, is more like the person that I am. Actually, maybe I should switch to the military.
Well, we love to have you.
Yeah, man, maybe I should
you know,
change
you,
career.
you make a good point, because there's three scenarios there. Number one, that person is so skilled, I just can't lose them, right? And so they lay down their values for the sake of some one person, and it always amazes me how a leader can put in balance the entire company over one person. And so they will allow it. I've seen it. I've seen people in corporate out here, not in the military, allow misbehavior, things that you can go to, to court for because of their technical expertise. Then I've seen the people who bring it up get fired because they were not as talented. They were not as talented as that person causing all the damage, and so they would get relocated or they be gone. And and we lose a good person that's standing for values, and we keep the person that stumps on the values every day. So, and then you have some leadership that will say, you know what? Our values is what keeps us going. I don't care if you're the best at what you do. You cannot be here. Go be the best somewhere else. And those people that can get to that point, they thrive because they're looked at as leadership that is willing to protect everyone over one. Right? So, you're going to get a mix of any one of those scenarios, but I've seen all three of them. So
this is not a selling speech, but where I work now, man, I really love the people and I really like the culture. We're like 1,000 people, and when we were sent from home, I could sense true care by the leaders. Like, are you having it okay? Like, because like they understood that we had the children and we had to work at the same time. There were never no pressure or complaints, They were more like,
right.
It was the opposite. They said like, are you doing okay? I truly felt more and more loyalty, like in these hard times. And that I have been saying in a long time, that like I'm this guy that I don't like when it's too sunny and people drink parasol. I need a storm. And when everybody's like, like relaxing, drinking margaritas in the beach, I'm like, hey, why is everybody so relaxed? Like, because I wanna achieve, I wanna run out on the field and build something, that's how I am. I was born that way, So I'm like, come on, let's bring a storm or something. And the storm comes, everybody panics. I don't, man. I don't. I start to look everywhere like, okay, people will need to buy shelters. You understand? But it took me time to get there. I wasn't born like that. I will tell that, like, I was born the opposite, actually. I was afraid for many years because of all the things that I passed with, like people bullying me, like abusing me. Like, I'm not having a father around, for me, I was on my own, man. It was really, really hard to have the childhood that I had, So, and to switch from having fear of everything, I was like afraid of people. I was afraid of, like, for me, this is so crazy that my parents, they took me to the doctors like many years to check my stomach because I had stomach pain and I didn't want to go to school. Because I had so much stomach pain that I remember it hurt so much that I didn't know what to do. I was like, all the time. So one day the doctor, he said to my mother, like, there's nothing wrong with your like son's stomach, maybe you should ask him what's going on. There is something else behind the stomach pain.
Right.
It's nothing with his body, And I was so afraid that she would ask because I didn't want to worry my mother. As a Latino, you don't worry your mother. You are quiet about it. Like, if they beat you up, you will not tell because your mother, you can't worry your mother, right? So for me, I was like tripping out that my mother would ask me and I would tell. And imagine, I was like 7 years old or something, and in my brain, I'm thinking, how can I do to not tell her? So don't worry. That was so crazy. But what happened was that I came to a point of life where it was like it was enough, like it crossed a line where I lost all the fear. I lost like there's nothing to be afraid of. Like whatever you do to me, like this like leader that was trying to, I don't know, do whatever with me, it's like it's nothing. It's like, okay, come on, like buy it, or what can you do that others haven't done to me? There is absolutely nothing you can do that I haven't suffered. So then I lost the fear, you can say, but I didn't lose my love for humanity. That is what the bullies, they didn't make me into the one of them. That is what I'm really proud about. That I managed to let go of the hate, because for many years I had this anger against these people, because they done. But then I healed. Amazing feeling, healing. To letting go of the hate. That's amazing. Yeah, sorry, man. I just wanted to get that out of my chest.
No, I tell you that. Well, you mentioned, you got rid of the fear, and that's what I was referring to before, right? When people at work sites, at companies, shed the fear, things will change. But it's also shedding fear and taking the right steps regardless of what comes. And so that's a high price for some people, right? You got to understand that some people are putting their everything on the line for that. But I tell you that I'd rather be broke and be on the right side of right any day.
Me too, man.
The peace of mind and the fact that you were able to stand for the right side of a person, for a person, that's invaluable.
You heard it on Eduardo.live. I'm going to join the military when Enrique Acosta. I'm missing some action, I need action. That's my drag, I need missions. Like I need to do, like achieve something. I don't know why, like that. It just stuck with me now, so now I can't get rid of that. And I have a question here that is, I think many people have asked this question: is a leader born or made?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's funny. I spoke about that last week in a different show. My take on whether a leader is born or made is both. You will get both. There's some people that are propelled, they are put in positions of leadership they are not ready for. And you have to teach them. You have to teach them. But guess what? They're there. So they're going to learn how to be leaders. I have a 9-year-old that's a natural born leader. He's got the words. He's got the charisma. He can tell you how it is. And you say, yes, sir. And he's only 9, right? So he was born with a certain set of skills to be able to verbalize things and have people do them. And a charisma, people call it charisma, people call it personality. He's got it. And so you're going to have both situations come up on you at any given point. Now, in corporate, not everybody that gets into leadership was raised to be that leader. A lot of times, the person that the person that did the job the best is the next successor. Well, that doesn't mean that they're the right leader for that position. That just means they're the best technician, right? Maybe they just need to stay the best technician. But what happens? Will the best technician allow, without no gripe, no complaints, somebody that just came in the company but is showing definite signs of leadership to take that position? No. They're going to be like, hold up. I've been here 12 years. I'm the best technician. But there's leadership that cannot say, Yes, you are the best technician and you're getting paid to be the best technician. But you cannot be a leader. We don't see that in you. So we're going to put in charge the person who we know can lead this team. You don't get those conversations, right? And so those are conversations in the military that we have, right? We can do that. And I've done that myself. I've put a person that just came in, but had the definite capability to be a leader. I put them on top over people that have been there for a while. Because my objective is not to pad your resume. My objective is not to make you bigger than what you are currently. I am there to develop you. I am there to make you the best you, the best version of you there is. And if you still have growing to do, we're going to work on that. But you're not just going to run up and be the leader and then mess everybody else up. So there are some leaders that need to learn that you put the people in the seat that need to be in that seat. Not just because of time, not just because of tenure. I know I don't play that, but there's some other leaders that will because of tenure and because they've been at it so long that, it only makes sense that they take the position knowing good and well that once they get there, they're going to fail. And then it's going to be worse, right? Instead of raising them up to be a leader and then being comfortable and being confident in their ability, we throw them at basically a lamb at the wolves. They devastate all kinds of stuff, people and units and all kinds of stuff. And then we say, terrible on you. You're fired. No, you should fire yourself for putting that person in that spot.
I love that. I love what you just said. I have to say two things like directly related to that. First, I have to say that with what you just said, you just sealed give me the paper. I will sign here and now. Let's see if we find the paper in the studio. I'm joining the military right here and now. I love that. So many things we could talk about, and we're coming soon to an end here. And I just have to ask you a final question. We have said now, we have understood that maybe military leadership is something that corporates should look at from a new perspective.
Yep.
So how do we let best ideas win with hierarchy? Like, how does that work in a hierarchical environment? Like, how do we lift up the best idea? How do you do it in the military? Like,
yeah, well, one of the future missions of Triad Leadership Solutions is to, and I'm going to say infiltrate, but that's not really that, because you got to get hired, right? So you're not infiltrating anything. You're actually letting get in. You're going to get in. But to model the military's top 3 chain of command principle, which is, CEO, COO, and executive advisor. The position of an executive advisor is the position that the senior enlisted personnel in the military have. What does that do? That executive advisor serves as the representative of the workforce to the CEO. They work in hand with HR, but they work directly for the CEO. And they work with the COO. And that triadic type of relationship allows the CEO to be, how we say, al tanto of all the stuff that's happening with the people. And then they become a conduit, a bridge between the workforce and the executive suite. They advise the executive suite on things that deal with the people of the company. And they are also given position or at the table with the executives to be able to give them sound advice, things that are tried and true, in order for them not to be on the front page of the New York Times or the Washington Post, right? But not just for that. They also serve as the main developers of that executive suite. So while you have a representative from the workforce within the executive suite, you also have somebody developing the executive suite to be able to work with the workforce. And so that relationship is one that I've been, vouching for and trying to push. And that is one way that corporate America can incorporate military into their companies by creating a position of executive advisor and having a person that has been in that role, right? You mentioned your company is 1,000. I was the senior enlisted leader over a company that were 1,000. So I have the executive advisor experience already for your company. So, and that's a way they can incorporate the military senior enlisted leaders. Then that person can also, with HR, look at a military person applying for their company and saying, yep, that's a good one. Nope, don't do that. Right? Because corporate America they can't translate all of that stuff that we normally put on resumes, although we try to do our best to make it civilian. But there's still some verbiage that remains military. A military person in a position within the company as an executive advisor can do some of that work in tandem with HR and make things a whole lot more easier. Then you'll see the best of the military coming out and actually getting employed. You'll see your executive suite developed as leaders. And then you'll see that the voices of the people are heard at the top.
I love that one, man. I really like that one. You always come with these amazing things, my friend. So we are coming to a close end. What's Enrique Acosta? I know that you have this amazing podcast. I will share the screen here to show it to the people. Please tell us a little bit about your podcast.
Yeah, the podcast was birthed from the company Triad Leadership Solutions as a way of vocalizing what we do. Now, I mentioned earlier that we focus on college level graduates that are going to their first position as leaders and leaders that are struggling, right? And this is a podcast that they can go to. And the model for the podcast is that we touch on everything that can possibly be part of leadership. So you'll see things like leadership and teams, leadership and legacy, leadership and values, leadership and heart. Anything that has to and will be part of a leader, we cover at topic levels. And then we speak to professionals that are in that kind of realm, and they can expound on the questions that I ask them. But if I were a college student, or if I was a person in leadership and I'm struggling to find answers for certain things, they can go to this podcast and look at the subject matter and actually listen to it by subject. And that's how I structured it. So it can almost be like a book where you go find trust. How do I develop trust? There's a leadership and trust podcast. So that's how I structured it, so that that could be the voice of my company to the general population that don't engage us on a consulting basis, because that's what we do, or a training basis. they can go there, get some information. What we ask is if you get on there, that you subscribe and that you like and comment, because that way we know that the content is hitting home. And we like to entertain questions, right? So if you go on there and you have a question about the content, we'll definitely answer it. But yeah, everything that a leader can face will be on that podcast.
I will add the link on to the podcast and to Enrique on LinkedIn. You have to follow him. I love his posts. We're always talking there online. So, and is LinkedIn your primary contact channel if people want to contact you watching the program?
It is. You can get me on LinkedIn. We do have Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, but they are repositories for the content that we share. But you can connect with us on those platforms, but I normally will solely reside on LinkedIn.
I just have to show you one final thing. I want your opinion on this. Let me see here. I will show something to you, a picture that I made actually, and see what is your... You've seen the movie. You've seen the movie,
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yes. Okay. That's a classic. Okay.
Is this have I put the names correctly?
I would say that they are correct. Yep.
Boss, manager, leader, right?
Yep.
So there, people, if you want to know what true leadership is about, watch this movie and have your eyes on the leader guy. Follow his example. Mm-hmm. Don't follow the boss example. The manager is in between. It means you're just there to make operations easier for the boss or the leader. So don't mix management with like leader. Like that is two different positions, and we need managers, we need leaders, but bosses we don't need, according to me. Ok, my friend, un placer como siempre tenerte, Enrique, de verdad. Si los vemos en tu show, ¿no? I just said it to him in Spanish that it's a pleasure to see him, and I will visit his podcast. This was amazing. We will do leadership part number 2 after New Year's. This was amazing episode.
Outstanding. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Lean on me, yeah.